First of all, I would call this meeting as a tactical victory of Mr. Putin, since he has not been accused of war crimes in Syria or Ukraine. He has not been pushed by a new wave of sanctions that has been discussed at least in some capitals in Europe. And he was met by the President of France and Chancellor Merkel. He was around the table deciding the fate of Ukrainians and Syrians, as Putin was willing to have in his dreams. So he got this. He escaped sanctions. At the same time, nothing has been decided except of the will of the sides to work out the so-called roadmap how to fulfill Minsk. And actually there is no need in any additional documents, since Minsk is numbered and all measures are absolutely clearly have been written. So Putin is just procrastinating any actions, and he is waiting for more favorable future for him. I mean the presidential elections and the change of power in the United States and the new leaders of France and Germany next year. So he's waging he's trying to seize a new opportunity without selling anything from his part. And actually, Minsk itself, so-called Minsk agreements, are just concession from the Ukrainian side. And there is no any way Russia can concede something, because it's aggression of Russian Federation against Ukraine, and any so-called concession are just made by the expense of Ukrainian side. And actually, what was not happen, I'm not happy about one thing that hasn't happened in Minsk, in Berlin, is that the president has not developed the victory, or the diplomatic victory of Ukrainian side in Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, where the parliamentarians called the Russian aggression as it is, and blamed Russia for everything what is going on in Donbas. Because according to the statements of the sides after these talks in Berlin, Russia considers itself as a good mediator, good offers, not as a part of the conflict. And the rest of all those who had this talk with Mr. Putin are acting in the same way. The so-called Minsk agreements are not going to change everything with regard to the war. Simply because they are drafted in such a way that there is a false perception that a civil war is going on in Ukraine, and if we provide these territories with additional authorities, if we are electing some representatives of these territories to the local powers and then to the national parliament, that the problem and the conflict will be solved. It's not true. Simply because it's not an internal conflict, it's not a civil war, it's a Russian aggression against our state. And it will end in two cases. Either Ukrainian side agreed or capitulate on all the demands of the Kremlin, or Russia will be unable to proceed with its aggression. And that's why holding elections on the occupied territories, or getting control over the border, or making any other political moves envisaged by the so-called Minsk agreements will not solve the conflict. It's impossible to hold elections on the territory where there is no rule of law, where is no Ukrainian law enforcement agencies, Ukrainian courts, Ukrainian media, and Ukrainian political parties. And what kind of power would these people elect if they are under the Russian propaganda for 3 years? And certainly it's not going to solve even the local problems of the governance if we elect someone. That's why I think it's not productive for Ukrainian side to agree on any elections in the 5-year term, even if we get back our border control, because it's not solving the core of the problem. And actually, Minsk is not solving the war itself, because Ukraine could be secured in just in one way, if we get, in two ways. If we get enough capabilities to withstand the Russian aggression, and secondly, if we receive the external or international guarantees, real guarantees, not comparable with so-called Budapest Memorandum, and it will make impossible Russian aggression in the future. And such guarantees could include Ukrainian membership into NATO. One of the reasons why Russians are making this war, it's their unwillingness to see Ukraine as a part of the Western alliance, on either economic, I mean European Union, or NATO. So if the NATO countries, as a NATO itself, would confirm that Ukraine is going to be definitely a member of this alliance, it means that there is no need for Putin to proceed with his aggression, because he is failing. And at the moment, he is succeeding simply because there is no perspective of Ukraine to get into the European Union. Even there are some troubles with association agreement with political part because of the referendum in the Netherlands. And secondly, NATO is saying such a thing that the Ukraine is not ready to get its membership in this alliance. So these approaches are just encouraging, they are just inviting Putin to proceed with aggression and to impose his will over Ukrainian state, Ukrainian nation.